You hick!
Kurt Jones.
Oh, I've done it again. Fuck me. Exactly the same thing. Hey everyone, Pot Sam. Welcome to another step-by-step build video. Before we get going today, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click the little bell notifications, get notified of all our latest videos. Click the like button and leave a comment. I do read and reply to all the comments and appreciate everybody that takes the time to leave a comment on the channel. And of course, if you scroll up in the description, there's a link to a big long list of all the items I use in my videos. So if you see anything, you should be able to find it in there. So as you may guess by the title and a couple of outtakes at the beginning, we're going to be building the rifle models of 135th Challenger 2 TES. Brand new kit out, highly anticipated. Glad to say we're selling them at umpretail.com. They're out of stock currently, but hopefully stock will be back in very, very soon because it's selling literally like hotcakes. And it's a fantastic kit. I reviewed it a few weeks back, so if you want to go back look at the review, go back on the channel. I'll put a link in the description down below. You can familiarise yourself with the kit, have a look through what's in there, and it's a beast of a tank. It really, really is. So, a few people jokingly and not jokingly asked me will I do a video build series of it, and I was thinking about it and I thought, you know what, let's see if we can. Now, I did plan to try and get this all in one video. As I got further through the build, I thought, yeah, that's not going to be possible. It'd be like an hour long, and I'd miss out so much important information that I don't think it's going to work. So I'm going to break it into 3, maybe 4 videos. I'm going to try and aim for 3. So the first one I'll focus on the build, which is today. Next one I'll focus on the priming, painting, and maybe the start of the weathering. And the third one will cover the weathering I'm going to do on it. It's a modern day vehicle. I'm going to base mine on the one demoed at Bovington. I'm not going to put the Barracuda on it. I'm just going to do it out the box, literally out the box. So it's going to have pretty normal weathering. There's not going to be anything over the top, no chipping on it, anything like that. But I will cover the weathering techniques I used on the likes of my Leopard and Abrams I did recently. So, with regard to the build, we're not going to sit and build every part because there are hundreds and hundreds of parts. This isn't like a car model where there's 3 sprues. These have dozens of sprues in them. We would be there all day going through part by part. So I've kind of filmed when I thought the bit was important or when I thought it was something worth showing. So you're going to see bits, skips, starts, jumps as we go through. But we're not here to show the whole build of the kit, or to just do a 40-minute video on the build of the kit and go, there you go, it's done. I want to show the painting and the weathering process in depth a bit more, to be honest, because we can all follow instructions and build the kit. As I say, as I go through the build, I'll pick out the important bits I think need mentioning, things like the tracks, because there's wrong info about the tracks in the instructions and on Facebook as well. And I'll just pick up on some key points through the build. So let's dive straight in and let's have a look where we're going to start. Right then, here we go then. So we've got our instructions. We've been through these before. As you can see, I've ticked off all our sprues as well. There are reports of some of these kits being missing parts and sprues. So double check your kit, especially making sure the upper hull is there. If you have any parts missing, contact the retailer you bought them from and they should be able to sort you out. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame there's missing parts, but I've heard a few people say that there is. So like I say, double check your kit, tick off all your parts, and I think the main one is the upper hull top piece. Like I say, if it is missing, just contact where you bought it from and they should sort you out, no problem at all. So we're starting off with the lower hull, as you can see. There's quite a lot of complex parts on this kit. It's going to need some careful looking at the instructions, planning ahead, and just some careful preparation for building. Now, we're going to cut all the sprue parts off as usual. I'm not going to cover off how we cut the parts off. You know how I do that. I've got my Tamiya cutters. I've got one of our UMP customizable sanders cut to size. Finding these more and more useful now on the armour where I want a straight edge, and they are more straight edge than our thinny sticks. So I found them really useful to keep that nice flat edge. And what we've got here in the centre of the lower hull is our torsion bar suspension mount. So this glues in place in the centre, and as you can see, each side is a locating point for each torsion bar end. So we've literally cleaned it up, made sure it fits. Again, with every part, make sure it fits, make sure it's orientated the right way before committing to glue, and then once you're happy, hit it with some glue. We're using Tamiya Extra Thin. This is my 50-50 mix with EMA PlastiWeld, but any other good hot glues will do the job just fine. So as you can see, there are some raised sprue locator points on these kits, so remove those. They're not really in the way as such, but it's good to get rid of them. They're not in any visible places, but there may be one or two places where they may need to be removed to actually fit parts together. We're using my little battery operated drill, which sadly you can't get anymore, with a 1mm drill bit, and we're just putting pile of holes in all the points the instructions are asking us to drill holes. What we can do then, once it's all assembled, is come back and widen the holes if needed. So again, test fitting parts, we sanded everything flush, removed any ejector pins are in the way, check the time, yeah, it's fine. And dry assemble it first, make sure it all fits together. Now with these two parts, you need to make sure they're lined up underneath. On one of them I had to unglue it with a fresh bit of glue and just pull it down a bit because it sank a little bit too low. And it's quite important at this stage to make sure everything's level and lined up. You don't want it all twisted for putting the upper piece of the hull on, or does it give you problems down the line? With a lot of these newer kits, I think Asuka started the trend back in the day of full builds up from the hull down. So yeah, a lot of these kits are like this now. On like a Tamiya kit, the older ones, you get the lower hull pre-built. On these newer ones, you're assembling yourself. So it's important to make sure everything fits well, everything's straight, everything's level, and you shouldn't have any issues at all, really. You may find a couple of areas you'll need a tiny spot of filler in and wipe off, but for the most part, once you've got it all lined up, hit it with the Tamiya Extra Thin, let it dry, and you'll be good to go. Just keep everything level and straight, and you'll have no problems down the line. What you don't want to do is glue something and then come back to a week later and realise it's not level, it's not straight, and when you put your upper hull piece on, it's pushing it up or there's a gap. Dry fit's the key, and just double check everything before you commit to primer. So a few more of these raised sprue points. As you can see, these aren't in the way at all. They're not visible, they're not encroaching on anything to stop any fitment, and just taking them off to show you how easy they are to remove, and that's it, simple as. So this is a upper hull. As I say, we've checked this fit, it fits really well, and this is what I'm saying about the preparation before getting to this part. I've glued these, they've been kind of freshly glued probably 30 minutes before. This part isn't going on yet, and we're just popping it on to make sure that everything lines up, everything fits well, and it does. It really does. It's going to need a little bit of holding in one or two places, like there, just to glue it, but on the whole, it's fine. So, it's talking about our customizable sanders. These are our UMP customizable. They are our sanding papers off our thinny sponges and thinny sticks, sorry. And they are on a hard plastic backing. So you can literally cut them to any shape or size you want. So I've got a whole range of different sizes and shapes. My favourite go-to is our yellow 400 grit one, because it's just perfect for basic sanding. If you need anything coarser, we do a 240, and then we go 400, 800, 1200. So as you can see, it's a multimedia kit this. We do have some photo etch. I've put these on, and they were bent following instructions with our photo etch benders from Tamiya. Very, very simple to do. Couple of dabs of CA glue, and on they go. And as you can see, I've also put on the jerry cans and all the assembled pieces on the back of the tank too. Onto our suspension now. So we've got some mounting points for the side skirts, and then our torsion bars to do as well. So a bit of careful cleanup. And we'll start assembling these. Like I said in this video, I'm not going to focus on every aspect of the build. We would be there all day, and this is filmed over a good 10 days of footage. So literally coming back different days, picking up and getting off where we were at before. So we've got a 240 customizable now, cut to shape. I'm just getting rid of any seams or edges on these support mounts which hold the armour side skirts on. You can see them in blue on the instructions in front of us. So on parts like this, you're not even going to see them, but I still like to clean them up just for, well, it's good practice as well to know that your sanding skills are still good, etc, etc, and it's just good practice to do it as well. So cleaning up some suspension parts here, there's plenty of them. So just work your way through them carefully. When you are sanding, make sure you're not removing any detail that should be there. And there we go. There's all those parts glued in place. With those side skirt mounts, make sure they are orientated right and at the right angle. Just keep an eye out, make sure they're all lined up, and you'll be perfectly fine. Torsion bars, right, quite a bit of cleanup on these. You've got a sprue locator point inside and a seam. We're just going to remove those for the sake of removing them. So I've got a 220 UMP, 240 UMP, 240 1200 UMP sponge, taking off the excess plastic, and then on each side there's a sprue locator point as well, and down the bottom of the torsion bar itself where it mounts to the wheels. Now, if you didn't want to sand them, you're not going to see these parts really. They're hidden behind the wheels. But me being me, I like to remove everything that's a flaw. So we go with a 220 sander now, just to make sure we're all good. And then on armour, what I tend to do is I hit them with our buffer, but I use the blue/green side, whichever ones you've got. I don't tend to use the white and buff it to a high shine because we kind of want a bit of texture there anyway. But a couple of sprue locator points, and these are dealt with. And obviously you've got multiples of them. I think there's about 10 of them in total. So it's 12 actually, looking at the lower hull. So it's a little bit of work, a lot of work sanding, checking all the parts. But as always, good preparation leads to a better model. And I feel happier doing things like this and knowing that it's all been sanded properly. It's probably a little bit OCD, but I'm happier doing it. And you might as well make the most of the model you can. Like I say, you get out of modelling what you put into it. So take your time. These need orientating in the correct direction. There is a little keyway lug on there that holds them in place. As you can see, I've not figured it out yet. Oh, which way does it go? We'll figure it out. Give me a second. Oh, no, it doesn't go that way. Let's have a look. Oh, it's there. It goes that way. And there we go. In place. So it pushes in at the side and pushes in the centre. Sadly, not workable, which is a bit of a shame because it's all there to make it workable. But for some reason, Ryefield decided not to. There's all those parts in place. Those rollers at the top, the track sits on, make sure they are straight because they're not a loose fit, but they do move around a little bit if you're not careful. Just make sure they are straight. Road rails now, these are going to keep you busy for a while. There's quite a few of them. Each one needs a poly cap in there as well. So again, referencing to instructions. It's not a high sprue par count kit, this. I think there's about 10, 12 sprues in total. Probably a bit more with the tracks. I've got one of our UMP sprue holders to the side, holding all the parts on. And it does make a big difference. But there's a multiple of a few sprues, including this one. This is the F sprue. So wherever you cut off one, you're more than likely cutting off the other. So it's a case of, again, taking these raised sprue ejector points off on each part. So go through them all and get rid of all of those. You can then test fit, make sure you don't need to sand, which I don't think we did need to do. The Tamiya cutters got close enough and removed enough material. Pop one of the poly caps in. Just offer it up, make sure it goes together well before you commit to glue. So there we go. What I tend to do, usually, if there's a keyway lug in there to line them up, the two sanding points, sprue points will lock together. So it makes sanding a bit easier. So rather than sanding each individual wheel, you can sand them when they're together. Got some of Tamiya's white cement here. I've got one of the extra thin brushes on there to make application a little bit easier. We applied a small amount of that in the middle, just offering it up to get it lined up correctly. Once it is, give it a little bit of a squeeze. Just going to pull this one apart. Yeah, there's plenty of glue in there, so we don't need any more. Making sure nothing is hitting. And there we go. That's one road wheel down. Several more to go. And we're all good. So we've got a return idle pulley and our sprockets to do. Again, one on each, well, 2 parts on each sprue, F sprue for each part. And again, the careful cleanup, especially on the sprocket, because of where the sprue locator points are. I got a very thin piece of customizable 400 in there, and just slowly sanded it away carefully, making sure not to alter the profile of the sprocket itself. There we go. Same as the wheels, there's a polycap in between each one of these parts, which makes them able to be taken on and off the torsion bars as required. So I'm just offering it up here, making sure it all lines up well. And then we're going to use some extra thin on this part, because we can easily get to the center of it. No idea where I'm pointing at, but something must be in the air. And there we go. Generous amount of that. Give it a tiny little squeeze. Make sure it's all glued well. And there we go. Same for the return rollers, idle pulleys, sorry. A little bit of white glue inside these because we can't get to them with the glue. Oh, polycaps fell out. Oh, and again. There we go. So yeah, always make sure your polycap's in there. It's so easy to do. Miss one out, and you come to the end of the build, put the wheels on, and one of them's falling off every 2 minutes. So these push on absolutely perfect. There's no real tension on there. Perfectly enough to hold the wheels on. And there we go. I like to put them on for safekeeping. They do all turn, and you can take them all back off should you wish. And there we go. Another job out of the way. They've all been sanded just with a 240 1200 sander. And this is where we're at now. So we've got all the side armour assembled, the bar armour on the back. Again, just following the basic instructions. Be very careful on these side armour skirts. Make sure those rear bar armour mounts are orientated the right way. We've got all the lower hull done, all our photo etches on. We've got our remote mounted MG there as well. 38 part alone just in there. So quite a technical little build. But this is where we're at. So I have skipped ahead quite a bit. Like I said, we'll be here for hours. Ever showed the whole build, but that's it. Basically assembled with all the instructions. The P is very easy to glue in place with a little bit of CA glue. Cut it off carefully with your snips. Anything that needs bending, the instructions tell you, and it is pretty straightforward. Like I said all along, it's not a kit for a beginner, but if you've got a few armor kits under your belt, it's definitely one you should be able to tackle with no problem. Check and double check everything is straight, everything's where it should be, and you shouldn't have any issues at all. It all goes together fairly well. It's just quite a high cleanup kind of kit. The hardest part on this so far is this bit of PE that runs along the top of the side skirt. On photo etch, you normally get a bending point where there's like a line in the PE, and this helps you bend it and shows you where to do it. On the larger side piece, along that top piece, there isn't one. So you have to kind of guess where to do it. So there's 2 raised bolt head detail parts there that I saw in reference pictures and in instructions. I use those as a point. Oh, we'll just drop that and knock a piece off. We'll get that back on in a minute. So as you can see, where the PE bends into that little gap on the far left, you can see there, right there. So what I did is I lined that up with my photo etch bending pliers, pulled the photo etch down into it to get a basic shape. I then glued that in place and using 2 picks each side, spread the PE out and then bent it over the edge. It sounds a lot harder than it actually was. It was pretty easy to do. This is the remote mount MG. We haven't got the actual MG on there because that'll be painted separately from this. But there are 38 parts alone in that there, which is what I mean about not being for the beginner. It's quite a high part count for each individual sub-assembly, but it does go together well. We've made a start on our turret as well, so we've got all the basic shapes on there, and yeah, good headway on this. What's next? So as you can see, there's our remote operated turret. There's a lot of parts, as you can see. There's loads of them. Start on the back there. There's the MG we've left off for now, so we'll paint that at the end. That glue's in place just there, but there are a lot of parts. Those whole almost page is just for that. And then we're on to our ECM turret at the back, which is all in place now. There's all our turret assembled. Again, small amount of PE again. Nothing too drastic really. We've got our ECM tower at the back of the tank. All the bar armors on. Turret's nice and straightforward to build up. No problems at all. And our barrel. So the barrel is needs assembling. It's all in halves and it's in multiple sections as well. It looks very daunting. It's actually very easy to do and pretty easy to sand, as I'll show you in a bit. But it's in multiple parts. I think there's about 5 parts separately in total wanted to assemble. Let me count. 1, 2, 3. I think there's 4 actually. There is. There's 4 parts, including this piece at the back. So once you've glued it, clamp it, leave it to one side, let it dry. We've got our tow cables on there as well. String into plastic. I had to widen the plastic to get the string in there. It's a bit awkward, to be honest. I would rather it be wire, because the wire is obviously a bit stronger, to be easy to push in. And there's our remote MG that we showed you last time as well. So that's it. That's the basic assembly of the kit done. Now we're on to tracks. So I've cut off all the parts. There's probably about 500 parts here to assemble. And assembly is like this. So we have the lower pad. Then we've got an interconnecting piece. And then the upper part of the track with the guide horn on as well. So the kit thankfully comes with a jig. So as you can see, we load it up. It's going to go in out of focus as my hand moves. But we load up the bottom. We're going to do them in sections of 10. So to do sections of 10, we need 10 pads in there. That will enable us to get the links at each end for the next row of tracks. We'll glue 10 in, take them off, and put another 10 in the middle, and away we go. So it's a case of lining all these up, like so. They fit in place like that. There we go. Make sure they're all lined up well. A pair of tweezers is very handy for doing this. They've then got our, I guess they're a hinge as such, I suppose, an easy way of describing them. It's actually the articulated part of the track. They are handed as well, so pay attention to your instructions. Although I will admit, halfway through, it just went everywhere. I've got pieces facing in and out. Once it's weathered, you're not going to see it anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. But quite a lot of cleanup on these parts. It did take quite some time cleaning them up, but you can see the way they drop in between. So I pick it up with the tweezers, orientated the right way. Have a look. Drop it in place like so. It's a bit fiddly. Once you've done a few lengths of it, you get used to doing it. And like I say, I'm doing sections of 10. And then once we get 7 of these done per side, we connect them together. And that gives us 77 tracks, which is what somebody told me on Facebook. I think they said it was 78. Upon putting them on the actual vehicle itself, the total amount of tracks I've found needed is, I think it's 80. Now, 80 tracks gives you a little bit of sag on the top, which isn't an issue because the side skirt will cover that, but it'll make gluing the last track in place a bit easier. And I'm accounting for that last track that's missing. So basically, we've got 79, and then adding that 1 to hold it all together will make it 80. So, getting our last interconnection piece in place, we can now hit them with a little bit of glue. So I've got Tamiya's white cement here. Takes a little bit longer to dry. Gives us a little bit more working time. But what I've done is replace the thicker brush that comes as standard with a extra thin brush, which is a little bit thinner. And that allows us to put the glue in a little bit more precisely and not get it everywhere. What we don't want to do is get it all over the moving parts and ruin the workability of the tracks. So a couple of dabs of glue, then grab one of the top pieces. This is where the tweezers are really handy now. I'm just making sure these aren't handed, they're not. Place it in where we want it, which is just there. So we have the extra pad each side to hold the interconnecting piece on, because we don't want to leave it hanging off, but we need it there to put the extra pad on. Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. You'll see what I mean at the end. I'll remove the build section and I'll leave those two either end then for the next lot. It just makes assembly a little bit easier. As you can see, we're just gluing it in place. I've done 4 at a time. A couple of dabs of the glue, and then we'll put our upper piece of the track on and we move on. So there we go, a couple of dabs in between each one. As you can see, we're doing 1 each side, 2 in the middle. There we go. And again, back to this. So you've got to do this about 160 times. So you've got a few to do. 3 parts per link, almost. And yeah, you've got to do 80 per side. So it's going to take you a bit of time. It does go quite quick. I think I did these in a couple of hours. Once I've got my full row on, I'm using the straight edge of my tweezers to fully push it down. We're counting them. Also good to put a mark on the jig as well. You could do a full run all along, but I prefer to do it in 10 so I could keep track and not have to keep counting what I had, because it's a little bit of a nightmare. And a little bit of a tip, if you are using the white glue, when you're wiping it off, make sure if it's a full bottle, you do fully wipe it off, otherwise you'll get a big glob of glue run down the shaft. We never want it run down the shaft, do we? And it'll end up making a mess of your tracks and stopping that workability of them. So there we go, final 2 pieces. So we give those a little bit of a push down. Make sure they're fully pushed home. We want the glue to grab it. And there we go. A section of 10. So again, once we get it off, push them down again, put them to one side to dry, and job's all good. So the barrel, like I said, while those tracks are drying, we're going to focus on our barrel we glued the other day. So you can see the seam lines we've got to deal with. That one on the far left can't be seen. That's where the flexible cover goes. But the one on the right is very visible. So we need some careful sanding here. So we've got a brand new 220 UMP sponge sander. And we're giving this a go over already just to check how well it sands. It does sound really easy. It's very nice plastic on these. So what we don't want to do is A, alter the shape, or B, lose that ridge at the front. Now there is a piece on this that should be underneath. I think I show it now. So there's our seam. That's what we want to remove. So again, we're going to lightly sand it. No real pressure. Like I say, we don't want to alter the shape, and we don't want to alter that ridge at the front either. So we just take our time. Really is worth just a little bit of time doing this to ensure it's done properly. And then once we've got all the back off, we'll go into our front section with on our customizables. Because we've got a hard edge, we can get up on top rather than losing the edge of the shape. So just lightly run over and get rid of the seam. So the seam runs completely front to back, and we want to try and remove it as good as possible without losing all that surface detail on that barrel heat shield, cooling jacket, sorry. Once you've sanded it, hit it with an old toothbrush to make sure, get rid of any excess dust, and you can see properly if you've got anywhere else that needs any attention. But it's just careful sanding, no problem at all. Once you're done, really easy to do, and not too bad, quite quick actually. Tracks have all been assembled now as well. Like I say, 80 links per side. I will show putting them on the tank next time. It's too much to show in a video. It'd take forever to do. So I've got to put them on next time. So I'll show them being put through the sprockets, etc. and how I got them on the vehicle when they're all painted up. And there we go. There's some nice shots of it all in plastic, ready for primer. So that's our next step. So it's assembled really well. We've got our nice sections there ready to go. We'll break it back down into the sub-assemblies. They're all temporarily attached there. I'll show all the sub-assemblies in the next video before we hit primer. And yeah, like I said, I know I've not shown every bit as we've gone through. This video will be hours long. There's like 10 days work of at least 2-3 hours a day there. It would take forever. So I've just cut out all the boring, monotonous gluing, sanding, and just thought we'd come back and look at all the important bits. So I hope it's shown the build good enough. There's probably more I could add, but to stop it going past 34 minutes, 35 minutes, I really had to be quite brutal on the footage I chose. She's looking good, really is looking good. Like I say, we're not focused on the whole build, we'll be there all day. We just picked important points, big stages along the way where we've gone, and right at the end we've got the finished model. Now, I will admit, as I went from the last bit of video footage to the pictures, I was in that much of a rush to count the tracks because I kind of lost track where I was. I broke it all back down from the sub-assembly build I had in the pictures, so I couldn't show it on camera. But what I will show in the next video is when we prime, and I'll show the sub-assemblies I've broken it down to as we prime it and move on. So yeah, I got no footage. I should have put it on camera and shown it, and I completely forgot, if I'm honest. But you've got pictures there. I think the pictures are better, to be honest. You get a bit more of a better look at how it actually looked. So to do the mock-up, somebody did ask me on Facebook today. The tracks are wrapped around, just fed through the wheels. Really easy to do. We'll show those in a later part when we put them on. How I did it. They just literally fed through with tweezers, and then the sprocket put on the back, and they'll be connected up underneath with another link. But for the mock-up picture, I just use masking tape to tape it together to hold it without links gap. A little bit of sag, which somebody's told me the real challenge it does have, to be fair. And you won't see that when the side skirts are on either, so that's all good. The remote operated turret MG is just white tacked on. The little devil white tack holds it in place. As you saw, I think I should show it in the video, I can't remember if I did. I snip off the tabs on the turrets where they click in place and turn. I snip them off so the turret just places on top and clicks, just holds itself in place perfectly. Makes life a lot easier. And those side skirts with all the armour on, I just put 2 tiny dabs of CA glue on their locator points just to hold on enough for a picture, and then literally just lightly prised it off when we're done. No damage, no harm done. And if you look at the pictures, you'll see a gap on the bar arm at the back. There's no point gluing that for a picture. So once we get it all painted up, I'll CA glue that together and we'll cover any problems there, but you won't have anyway when we commit to start weathering. So that's it really, pretty simple to mock up. So we're going to be back in part 2, hopefully pretty soon. I'm going to start the Ford Mustang build today is the plan. So hopefully we have a build video on that as well. That's the plan anyway. Whether it goes ahead, I don't know, we shall see. I'm playing today by ear right now to see what I feel like building. But yeah, we get the Challenger primed, it'll probably be UMP black primer, and then we've got some AK Interactive NATO green we're going to go for. And then we'll give a little bit of modulation here and there, a bit of highlights, lowlights, and then we'll cover with our pin wash and so on and so forth. So the next video will cover priming. I'll show the sub-assemblies, so we've got the hull and turret and everything itself to paint in green. We've got the tracks to paint, we've got some detail painting to do as well. So we'll cover all that in the next part. We've got the road wheels to do. So the next part will purely be painting. And then the third one, maybe fourth, depending on how long it's going to be, we'll cover the weathering. And I'll show my really simple weathering. Modern armour is very easy to weather compared to World War II because it's not as beat up. Because they are taken care of a bit better. They are cleaned regularly. Any problems are usually fixed, as far as I'm aware anyway. But they do get ingrained dirt on them. So even when they're clean, they can look dirty. So it's a good effect to catch. Whereas World War II armour, it's usually pretty well beaten up, chipped, etc., etc. So it's a different genre. I think that's why I'm enjoying it a bit more as well, because all I ever used to do was World War II armour. So there we go. That's the Rifle Challenger all built. It's a good kit. It's not for the beginner, as I've said. There's a lot of technical parts to it, a lot of sub-assemblies to build. Like I said, that remote-mounted MG, there's 38 parts in that, I think it is, all by itself. So there's a lot. The tracks build up well, there's no real issues there, but it's definitely not a kit for the beginner. And if you're not careful, it'll be a bit of a mojo sapper, because it's just an in-depth build. It's not high part count, it's just an in-depth build, but it's a good kit and it goes together well, and what a fantastic looking subject it is. There we go. So we'll be back part 2 very soon. As always, check out International Scale Model Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, where hopefully we'll have these back in stock very soon. If not, you can find a lot of the products I use in my videos, from the tools, glues, paints, etc., all on our website. And in the link of this description of this video is a link to all the products I use in my videos. If you click on that, if you see anything on my bench or any tools or anything, you'll more than likely find it in there. Check out the Live the Bench page for our Friday night live show, the Off Air Hangout group for all the Off Air Hangouts, my Paul ISM Facebook page for all my personal modelling work, and that's it. So we'll catch you all next time for part 2. Let me know what you think about it in the comments about the video. It's going to come as a surprise to a few people, I think. And if you've watched right to the end, say hello. It's always interesting to see who watches right to the end. So catch you all later, everyone. Bye-bye.